I need to be completely transparent with you. Insta360 sent me this camera, which means it's inherently going to be somewhat biased. I will say they haven't paid me or told me to say anything, but it is very helpful that they can send me cameras so I can make videos like this to tell you the pros and the cons. So with that being said, there are some things I really love about this camera, and there's some things that I think it falls short on, and I'm going to try and touch on all of those. We're going to go over form factor. I'm going to give you real world footage examples. It is worth noting that when I was testing this thing, it was in the beta firmware. As they roll out the proper firmware for the launch of this video, which will have happened by now, some of these things that I might have run across will perhaps have been ironed out by them, and I will make subsequent videos giving you updates about this camera. But the first thing that's worth noting is the Insta360 X6. It's quite a different form factor from something like the Insta360 X5. It is shorter and a little bit fatter in both width and depth, and they've removed some of the buttons from the bottom of the camera in replacement of just a full screen. So the buttons that were on the bottom here have now relocated. There's still a record button, and it's just moved to the side of the camera, which I think is actually better. The screen actually acts as a record button as well, and then the other button that allows you to change modes is now on the back, and I think you can customize that as well. They've also changed the way that the battery integrates into the camera, so there's a door that latches open and the battery comes out like most of the other action cameras that you might be used to. And the battery has been upgraded to a 2600 milliamp hour battery, which allows you to have a claimed 140 minutes of battery life and quick charging, which is really welcome. I had the extreme battery on the Insta360 X5, and I have to say I thought it was great battery life, so having that as standard on this camera I think is going to be really great. I will say that I did a star lapse the other night that lasted over an hour and a half, and the battery was at 90% whenever I started and ended at 60%. So that will give you a bit of an indication of the battery life there. Of course, that's not intense 8K continuous 360 recording, but I have definitely noticed quite a big improvement over the battery life on the X5. On the bottom of this camera, you still have the quick release mount, and you have the screw thread as well for your selfie sticks, and now there are some power terminals for powered accessories. And they've also improved the lenses with lens 2.0, which is supposed to be more durable. They are also replaceable as well. Of course, the other upgrade here is the fact that this has two 1-inch sensors, which makes it comparable to the DJI Osmo 360, and it has iLog, which is their log color profile in 10-bit as well. So you get much better color and color grading options out of this, which, based on some of this footage, you might agree or disagree with me, make this thing a better choice if you're a videographer and you really care about image quality. Before this, it was quite challenging to choose between the X5 and the Osmo 360 because this one had two 1-inch sensors and D-Log M, which allowed you to get a better image out of it. However, this felt a bit more clunky to use, and I found the Insta360 more enjoyable to use, and I enjoyed the form factor better. With the screen here, I felt like I could use the whole screen without smudging my fingerprints on the lens, whereas with the Osmo 360 I would smudge my finger on there when I would try and swipe down on the screen. And this new form factor is a good combo of both of those. I can still hold it in my hand, access all parts of the screen without smudging my finger on the lens as well, so that's super helpful. The other thing when it comes to the battery door as well, the fact that it's a latched battery door that opens with the battery not integrated into the door, is the fact that you will probably have less chances of accidentally not closing this properly. Because this thing is so long, I found myself in a rush just pushing down on one side and locking only one side of this, which allows this little raised area here, which means that water could get in it. Now that's unlikely to happen because you just have one door that you push down and slide in. This also has AI chips built into that, and that will help with some of the features here, because one of the things that Insta360 is now really pushing is basically no editing. This thing has the ability to find highlights through a trained AI model within the camera whenever it's connected to power, process everything, and then spit out a pre-edited video, which I think is really interesting. There's also integrated cloud uploading as well, which was the case for the X5, where you can then use the AI on your phone using the cloud processing and stuff like that. But they're just making more and more pushes towards that zero editing thing, which is one of the biggest pain points of 360 footage. And I just got a notification on my phone saying that my auto edit out of this thing is ready. So we will look at that together. And I have to say, I'm very skeptical of auto edits. I found auto editing to be absolutely terrible and completely missed the mark. So we'll have a look and see how that acts as well. Here it is. Okay, so I added a lot. Oh, tiny planet. Me talking. Comparison video. Okay, so that was, I would say, mediocre. I certainly probably would not post that, but I do think that there are many people that would be great for. It is kind of cool that it did everything for me without me having to do any input. I do think that's relatively impressive. I'm definitely not somebody that would probably use that though, especially as I like to create all my own stuff myself. But it's cool that it's there. And it does look like this is now going to be something that Insta360 is leaning more towards, which is a paid subscription plan. It's what everyone is going to. Of course, if you're putting your stuff on their cloud, that's going to cost money. So, oh, I have a new memory. Oh, whoa. Oh my God. Okay, so a new memory just popped up. It opened strong, but I think slows right down here. It's me cruising on the one wheel. All right, that one opened strong and then was a bit of a letdown towards the end. Okay, so that's the moments, a quick look at the moments thing. And it's clear that Insta360 is moving more towards this kind of AI world. They just released an update for the Insta360 Go Ultra, which turns this thing into a AI assistant. And I think it solidifies the direction that Insta360 might be going in. So let's take a look at what you get in the Essential bundle. This has, of course, the Insta360 X6 with that 2,600 milliamp hour extreme battery inside of it. It comes with a USB-C cable as well as a cleaning cloth. This new selfie stick, which is essentially the same selfie stick as the previous one. However, it's got some little yellow colored accents here. And I think that there's an integrated lanyard area here, although it doesn't come with a wrist leash. But this is exactly the same length. It's got a little bit of a different grip as well, so you can differentiate it from the X5's selfie stick. It comes with a little neoprene sleeve here if you want to cover the entire camera, and then this lens cap that will fit over the camera. And it's big enough to fit over the ND filters as well if you get the ND filter kit. It also comes with a battery charging case as well as an extra battery. And then in here, there's a little LED that indicates the charge level of your battery, which is interesting. And then I kind of thought, oh no, well, do I have to open this every time to see the charge level of my battery? Well, no, because the case is translucent and you can actually see the color through the case itself. Built into this 2 battery charging case, there is a USB-C charging point where you actually, of course, charge the battery. And then there is a cable built in, which is a USB-C cable, which I got really excited about. I was like, oh, this will double as a battery charger if I run out of battery on my phone when I'm out traveling. And I plugged it into my phone and for some reason it's not working. I don't know if it's just my phone or what's going on here. If you end up buying this and you're watching this somehow and you already have an X6, I'd love to know, and you managed to make it work, I'd love to know in the comments down below what I'm doing wrong. Of course, the Insta360 X6 now has compatibility, as did the X5, with the Insta360 Mic Pro, which is one of the most, I think, important upgrades to the whole Insta360 system, is getting decent audio. Prior to this, they released the Insta360 Mic Air, which is their little mini Mento sized microphone, but this came with its limitations. The signal strength wasn't great and it could be interrupted quite easily if someone walked in between you and the camera. If you're close, just vlogging and stuff, it was totally fine. This of course does work with that still. Now it works with the Mic Pro, which has 32-bit float, internal recording, and all the pro features, and you can connect 2 of these, which makes this thing a lot more versatile when it comes to content creation. So I'll be honest with you, when I first got the X6 and learnt of its 1-inch sensor, upgraded chipset, and I started to look at the footage on my phone, I immediately was like, this is the one camera to rule them all. I'm gonna leave my Insta360 Luna at home, even though I still love that camera. I'm gonna leave all my other cameras at home, and maybe, just maybe, I can just take this one camera. And I remember thinking that whenever I got the Osmo 360, DJI's first 360 camera, because it had that 1-inch sensor, and I just thought it's gonna be the same as the Pocket. And the reality of it is, once you start putting it on the big screen and you start zooming in beyond that 180-degree angle, you can really tell that you're cropping in to a 4K image. That 8K is the spherical image. So if you half that spherical image and have your 180-degree super wide, super distorted view, then you're gonna get that decent image quality. But as you start to zoom in, it's still decent, but you do notice the difference in quality, the degradation in quality, because you are cropping in even more and more. One of the modes that I think is going to be most valuable for people using the Insta360 X6 is Instaframe 2.0, and it eliminates a lot of the headache of editing in post, allowing you to do it in real time using the full benefit of having the 360 but outputting in a 16:9 or 9:16 image. This utilizes some of the tracking capabilities that you get in the Insta360 Luna, but without the mechanical gimbal system. And with the Insta360 X6's new accessory, foldable selfie stick with a smart remote integrated into it, this acts very much like the Luna Ultra with a built-in joystick and record button. So I can record my surroundings and choose where I actually want to film while still outputting that 16:9 image with 0 post-processing needed. So right now I'm in tracking mode, so there's a box around my head, so wherever I move this camera, it's going to track me and keep me somewhere in the middle of the screen. But if I want to, film my surroundings, I can just tap this little joystick here, it will untrack me, and I can use it to film my surroundings. So if I want to film in front of me where I'm going, you can see everything that I'm seeing. And this is all from this tiny little smart remote that magnetically clips onto this foldable selfie stick. I truly think this is probably one of the most insane accessories Insta360 makes. It has a little custom button to help you change modes, and also a record button, and it pairs via Bluetooth and works almost instantly. I can wake up the camera with this little remote and start recording. So it really does work very similarly to the Insta360 Luna. Now, Instaframe 2.0 was available in the X5, but now with the X6, you can film in that 10-bit iLog picture profile, and now I can see myself drifting out of the frame. So I'm just going to tap this joystick once, going to identify me and start tracking. Now I don't even have to worry. I can just talk to you, move this selfie stick around, and it's going to track me in real time. So if both cameras have 1-inch sensors and they have tracking, they have integration with all of the accessories like the Mic Pro, why then would I buy the Insta360 Luna Ultra over the X6? Or why would I buy the X6 over the Insta360 Luna Ultra? Well, the reality of it comes down to the image quality. As you start to crop in on that sensor, on that 1-inch sensor that has such a wide field of view, you start to lose a bit of image quality, and you should be able to tell the difference here between the Insta360 Luna Ultra, which is tracking me in 4K 30 frames per second on that 1-inch sensor at 1x zoom, and the Insta360 X6 at 1x, like the 1x focal length in Instaframe 2.0. Okay, so I'm going to state the obvious, since we're all probably thinking about it. There's a real issue with the exposure on the Insta360 X6 in Instaframe 2.0. For some reason, I'm pretty overexposed and the background is blown out. This is all in auto mode, so I haven't set my shutter speed or anything like that. This is just letting the camera do its thing. It was filmed in iLog and I added Insta360's official LUT to it, so I don't really know what's going on here. Here's another example from a couple of days earlier using a earlier pre-launch firmware version, and I thought this was going to get ironed out, but still you can see here I'm pretty overexposed, and yeah, it's just the exposure just looks odd to me, and I've looked through all my settings and there was nothing out of the ordinary here. Not using any ND filters or anything like that. So I don't know why it's getting it so wrong here when it normally gets it quite right in 360 mode. It's also worth noting this was not filmed in iLog, but it was 10-bit. So now on the left is an example of the X6 in 360 mode, filmed in 8K 30 frames per second in iLog. That's been reframed using the Insta360 Studio app with the Insta360 LUT added to it, and it's much closer to the Lunar Ultra. Now you don't have the same exposure issues, so I don't know what's going on with InstaFrame 2.0 at the moment. I perhaps think it might change with a firmware update, but as of right now, if you want the best quality from that X6, you're going to want to film in the 8K 30 frames per second 10-bit iLog. It is a lot closer to the Lunar Ultra, however you can see the improved quality of the Insta360 Lunar Ultra. There's improved sharpness, the background's a lot more blurry, there's a lot shallower depth of field, the image just looks better, higher quality, more crisp. So the power in this 360 camera, shocker, comes in the fact that it's a wide angle 360 camera. I think in environments like this where you're vlogging and you want to show the environment and you're happy for that wide, slightly distorted image, this is probably the best that you can get your hands on. And now that Insta360 has the Mic Pro as well, it just means that you can get really decent audio out of this. You can get really good image, 360 image out of it, and you can use it in all sorts of different scenarios. And with InstaFrame 2.0, you can kind of treat it a little bit like a gimbal camera with the tracking features and stuff like that, without having to worry about the mechanical limitations of that gimbal camera. So if I place this down in one spot, I'm going to keep it low so it doesn't fall over. I can then walk all the way around this X6 and I'll never lose the tracking. Whereas the Lunar Ultra, you'll hit a gimbal limit, which is a bit of an annoyance with the Lunar Ultra, and it happens with a lot of the gimbal cameras. But that's the thing with this 360 camera. The downside of not having that mechanical gimbal though is that in low light the image quality is worse, although we have pure video mode on this thing, which does do a really good job in low light. So pure video mode is Insta360's low light mode. For this comparison, we're going to compare the X5 with the X6. Immediately you can see that the X6 is brighter. There's a little bit more detail in the shot as well, and a little bit more dynamic range. It's definitely improved. That would kind of make sense because it's got a bigger sensor and it's newer processors as well. This is pure video mode, so it is working quite hard to deal with that digital stabilization and the lower light. So you are going to see artifacts, and this is never going to be something like a mirrorless camera. But I think there is an improvement here, and we will roll on to an area that is almost pitch black, so you can really see the comparison difference. This is pure video mode. I can barely see those people on the beach here. This is what it's like. In these comparisons, I tried to make sure that the focal lengths were the same and I was using the best quality I could for each camera, and you probably will see the difference in quality. It handles the highlights and the shadows a lot better, and that's partially because of that D-Log 10-bit, and then there's also a little bit more detail. With these things, they tend to sharpen quite a lot on the camera, so some of that's going to be in-camera sharpening, but these are pretty much straight out of the camera. With the X6, I just threw the Insta360 LUT on it, and then the X5, I just kept it as it was. I haven't really messed with these in terms of color grading, sharpening, or anything like that. This is literally the side-by-side comparison of both of the cameras. So both of these cameras have 8K sensors, but the X6 now films in 8K up to 50 frames per second, which means that if you're in a 25 frames per second timeline, you can slow the footage down by half and hopefully retain the same amount of quality. You cannot do that on the X6. And then this thing will film in 4K 120 spherical and 4K 120 in the single lens mode, which it's now calling flat mode. I will say that the 4K 120 image is not great in the 360 because then you're then cropping that into essentially 1080p probably. This is not a mode that I would use unless it was perhaps zoomed right out and using a really, really wide fisheye lens. It is worth noting that currently iLog is not available in any of the flat filming modes, which is a little bit strange, and that may change with a firmware update. So Insta360 has had a bunch of different modes to allow you to get different shots, from time-lapse, bullet times, star lapses, driving shots, and things like that. And currently with the X6, we have the most popular ones, which are going to be the 360 filming mode and then the flat filming mode, as well as pure video mode. You also have the photo mode where you can film up to 120 megapixel shots, road mode, and interval mode. So we touched on stabilization a little bit. This thing has really incredible built-in stabilization. If you have good light, you're not going to have any issues with this thing. You could go running with it and everything like that. Just like pretty much any other action camera you might have, you'll notice that in this day and age, stabilization on pretty much any action camera is really, really great. But like I said, where that fails is in low light because you don't have that mechanical gimbal. And these cameras have to slow down the shutter speed, which means that you get blur and all that sort of stuff. The final thing we should touch on is actually using the footage out of this camera. So we've already talked about the kind of auto edit features that come with this, and the fact that you have InstaFrame 2.0, which will output a pre-made video that you can just slot into an editor, which is really, really great. But A, how do you get that footage off and into a usable form factor? And B, if you do film in 360, how do you reframe that? Well, there's multiple different ways. You have Insta360 Studio, which is their desktop app, which is something that I use for my YouTube videos. I'll just take the files off of the camera, put them on my computer, use that software to reframe it and then export. It's a relatively easy process. But you can also use the Insta360 app. You can actually use it as a remote monitor. You can change your settings remotely through it. You can start and stop recording through it, but you can also view the footage, and this is what you're going to mostly be using it for. If I go into the app here and I go to album, I can go to my SD card or my internal memory, which the Insta360 X6 now has, and I can look at all of my footage. Now, some of it is kind of grayed out because it's log footage. You do have the ability to add the Insta360 LUT into it. The app is generally user-friendly, but you can get lost in some of the menus, especially when it comes to editing. So I can tap on a piece of footage, and with the faster transfer speeds of the X6, you're going to get a smoother connection between the X6 and your phone and the app. And then you can kind of reframe this image in whatever way you want by swiping your thumb along the phone. You can also use the gyroscope in the phone to kind of real-time reframe it as you're playing it. So I can go here and I can press record, for instance, and start recording, and then move my phone around, and it will correspond, like it will move the image around in this 360 space. I can look around as if I was actually holding a camera there. If you're in public, you're going to look like a complete lunatic whilst doing this, but it's a really quick and easy way of reframing. Then you can click stop. It will take that clip. You can then export it. You can add custom settings and export it, and then upload that really, really quickly to social media. And this is a thing that I use all the time. If I'm out exploring and stuff like that, I'll just quickly connect my phone, open the app, do this little gyro reframe, and then export it just like that. And then I'm going from camera to phone to posting in minutes. It's really, really a simple and seamless workflow. And I think it's probably the best workflow for the 360 camera. It's a lot less involved than taking the files off, putting them on your camera, opening the studio software. I think it really actually makes this camera really fun. And I think that's how most people are going to use this camera, is through the app. I guess it's time to talk about price, because this thing is priced at $699 for the standard bundle currently, and that will get you the extreme battery, USB-C cable, and a protective pouch. The essentials bundle that I have for a little bit extra, I think is worth it. You get an extra battery thing, and you get the selfie stick, And if you use my link down in the description, then you'll get an additional free gift, which is the replaceable lenses in case you get a scratch, which you will. If you have a 360 camera, you will scratch the lens. Anyway, I think that just about covers it. Thank you so much for getting through this monster of a video. I hope it gives you some good information about the Insta360 X6. My ultimate takeaway from this is, of course, I'm going to be stoked on it because Insta360 sent it my way. But I will also be using it a lot, and I will absolutely be using it more than my DJI camera. If you ask me, the X6 is the most superior 360 camera that we have now on the market. It beats the the Osmo 360, both in form factor, with the lenses, and all the features that are integrated into it. I absolutely love this camera, and I'm really excited to create more content with it and show you more what it has to offer. If you decide to pick up one of these, you get a replacement lens kit with the camera if you buy it using my link down in the description, so definitely use that. I also get a kickback because it's an affiliate link. Also leave a comment. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. I'd love to know what your thoughts are about influencers or people on this platform talking about cameras after being sent them. Do you think it is possible to remain unbiased? Like I said, my goal is to be as honest with you as I possibly can. The integrity of this channel means much more than a sponsorship with a camera brand. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bam, that was a massive video. Oh my God.